Okay, welcome to the session zero for Henry, your character.
Woo!
All right, so your sorry, let me just getting everything set up here. Your character. Do you want to go ahead and give a brief overview description of your character?
Oh yeah, I
You can
will.
leave out the whole the cipher character statement and all that, but whatever
Oh,
else you want
okay.
to say.
Cool. Oh, my character, his name is Olem Ferber. He's a human. He's probably around 30, and he's been in university or higher learning for a really long time, not following a linear track, but just kind of bouncing between subjects, working as like a research assistant or fellow and like a TA and stuff in the same university for a long time. He's a little bit mired by self-doubt and things like that. He's seen some of his friends go on to become great leaders and powerful people, starting on the same track that he did. Um, he's a human, but he grew up around Anzalonian, like a mostly Anzalonian school, and yeah, I think he wears a cardigan. That's pretty important.
Yes, that is very important.
Yeah, he likes learning new things, but he's a little bit anxious about new situations. New knowledge, yes. New situations. He's got a badass aunt that he uh what is he? Oh, I won't get too into it, but yeah, she's really cool. She's an EMT or something.
All right. Well, um, so on any given day, what does the beginning of Olem's day look like?
So yeah, he wakes up in he has like his own separate area that's like connected to his aunt's apartment that he sublets or whatever. And I picture him like waking up in bed, like his alarm goes off and he's like, ugh, he does that thing. And he might have like a food wrapper in his bed and like crumbs on him, like that kind of thing. And he forces himself out of bed at, he's probably not an early riser, you know? He probably sleeps in as much his course, as his like willful course scheduling can allow. Um, and then he gets ready, he like brushes his teeth and probably showers in the morning. He's clean enough. And then there's probably some kind of public transportation here, right, to get to the university.
Definitely, yeah.
I pictured a monorail,
Yeah,
but some
that's exactly right.
yeah, something like that. I don't think he drives like a sick Attack of the Clones hover car or anything. I think he takes public transit to school and then does his classes, does whatever like work or research stuff he needs to do at the school. I
Okay,
think he probably eats breakfast really quick. He has this truncated and hasty morning routine because he doesn't like waking up early.
fair. Yeah. So the classic running out the door, still zipping up the coat, and with
Oh
a
yeah.
bagel halfway sticking out of your
Yeah,
mouth, and
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, and it should be a bagel too. Yeah, that's. I hope bagels are a human food that still remains in this galaxy.
You know, sure.
Yes. And his like yeah, his aunt and he have like different schedules, so he probably often doesn't see her.
Okay. Yeah. Quite often she is working the night shift. Um,
So she
which
might be asleep when he
yeah,
if he
which
gets yeah.
yeah, well, which it I was gonna say it, which often whenever it comes up will prompt some sort of comment from her along the lines of it's more exciting at night, and she kind of gives a wink, and usually accompanied by a wink, I would say. Um, and yeah, but on this particular day, um, you make your way to the university as you often do. Um, a short trip from your apartment, as it's one of the main reasons you opted to live with your aunt. given that she is lives in such close proximity to the university. A fact
Hmm.
which she will often uh, roll her eyes at and usually make some sort of grumbling comment about having to about the number of stomachs she has had to pump. Um, uh, being the
So
one.
the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. But that said, today you arrive on campus at the university, and um, it's a bit of a light day for you today. Uh,
Yes.
this particular day is one where normally you would have sort of a full course load as you usually would, but today in particular, there are uh, some uh, conferences that are taking place where a couple of your professors are away for. Um, and as such, today is mostly a day that uh, have been encouraged by your professors uh, who are absent to take the extra time to study some of the concepts that you've been going over in class. Uh, Now, whether or not Olem has any intentions of following that advice is up to you.
Um, he probably is, but he's also. Are there like? Is there like an internet equivalent in this
Oh yeah,
universe?
absolutely.
Yeah, I probably am like doing the good old like go to a library space or like an something like that to research center to like study, but also spend a good 70% of my time just looking at meaningless bullshit on the like Skynet or whatever the internet is.
Yeah.
Or just like reading the news too, stuff like that. Like kind of daydreaming, looking out the window.
Okay. Um, Also, I will say that I did this on with Freeman as well, but I am sort of experimenting during this recording with using some of the sound stuff from tabletop audio. So
Oh, cool.
just so that you are aware, you won't be able to hear it, but I'm doing it.
Oh, ooh.
um, so okay, so at this particular moment, we find you sort of making your way across campus towards probably the archives where you would have access to any sort of terminal that you would need to do research or materials on hand to that you could pull from the archives, holographic records and reconstructions of past events, historical events, and articles of every major publication that has written in the last going back uh, at least 1,000 years. Um, it's it's one of the things that when you first came to the university was an enormous draw. The fact that there was all of this knowledge untapped in the depths of this institution, that at any moment you could just walk in and uh, just start going over and taking in. Is it fair to assume that the archives are one of Olem's haunts on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually thought about that a little bit. Like I probably have my own corner or like my own spot where I go, or like I wonder if you can like if there's like semi-portable terminals like in there that you can like a big like a uh, tablet or whatever that you like check out, but then you can take it somewhere and sit down. I guess it doesn't really matter that much, but it is a common haunt of mine.
Yeah, I
Make
think that.
myself comfortable there. That's for sure. Every time I go.
Okay, cool. So, um, that being the case, you make your way there today, um, and as you do, you you see groups of students making their way across campus in droves, as they often do. The university is sort of a city unto itself in a way. At here at kind of the heart of the capital of Anzalon 3, um, you you are seeing at this particular time you're seeing it's busier than ever as it's currently in between class blocks. Um, it to the point where it's almost impossible to get from one side of campus to the other without bumping several people. Um, a fact which mostly goes unmarked, considering that everybody's kind of in the same boat here.
Hmm.
Um, and most people, in spite of the size of this university, most people, you've been around long enough that you are sort of a fixture on campus, and people, even if you've never actually interacted, they at least recognize you. Um, Kind of in that way where you might notice it mostly manifest in the way that no direct interactions or anything like that, but mostly in the way that when you bump somebody and there's that momentary annoyance, they sort of glance up, they see you, and then you see the expression changes, sort of like almost like understanding dawning, like, oh yeah, okay, it's just
Oh, it's
Olem.
just this guy.
It's just this guy. Okay, cool. And then they
The guy
just
that bumps into people. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's it's kind
God,
of oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
I feel like like I know so many faces, but way fewer names. You know, that's probably
Hmm.
a common thing. Like pass people and greet them with the classic like weird flat mouth smile. You know what I mean? That like you
Yeah.
give when you walk past somebody,
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
constantly flashing that uninteresting expression.
Yeah, and like at equally frequent is greetings sent your way, just as people are passing you, just like, "Hey, Olin," like, "Hey, studying today?"
You know it.
Like as you like walk past, wondering who that person even was.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But um, eventually, you manage to make your way into the. As you start to kind of feel like you start as much as you're used to this kind of hustle and bustle, you start to feel your anxiety starting to spike just a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and then and it builds slowly and steadily until you find yourself walking in uh, to the mercifully silent archives. Um, you step inside, and as the doors just sort of shut behind you, you you step inside, and it immediately mutes the sound from outside.
That was a really good door sound.
Thank you. I've had
Did you make
many years to
it?
practice.
Yeah, that was great. Best ever.
Thanks. Uh, but yeah, you step inside, and immediately the sound from outside just muted. Like somewhere you can, if you listen hard enough, you can hear that sort of low buzz from outside of people, uh, the bustle of campus. But your mind has already sort of moved on from that. You've moved on to the task at hand, your studies.
Hmm.
Um, you step in, and one of the archivists nods to you. Somebody that you've become pretty familiar with in your time here, who knows you pretty well. In fact, you've probably even helped do some cataloging yourself. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I think I spend a lot of time here. Like I did, yeah, work here maybe part time a little bit.
yeah.
Oh
Um,
yeah, organizing shit in the library. That's so fun. My
yeah.
characters very much enjoys stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely, I could see that.
Yeah.
Also, on some level, it's sort of Olem is Olem is not terribly picky about like anything any sort of job that might get him a little bit of extra pay, help him sort of like get by. He'll take it.
Hmm.
um, so you've done a little bit of by this point you've done a little bit of everything on campus, like
Yeah.
even one short stint in custodial. which probably was not Olem's favorite thing to do. But
No, I don't think he's got a stellar work ethic. I think he's a little bit of a slacker and a flake.
okay,
So, like, yeah. So he's done a lot of jobs and like maybe kind of stopped because he didn't want to do it anymore.
yeah. Um, Having that thought, however, it reminds you as suddenly like you kind of now that you've reached the archives, your brain sort of snaps out of routine mode. Um, and having had that thought, remembering sort of quickly some of the multitude of jobs you've done on campus, it reminds you that your latest opportunity for sort of financial gain in the short term uh, is at the end of this week. Um,
Hmm.
the uh, the paid scientific study that you're participating in, uh, sponsored by actually a fairly one of the mega corporations, Silverbreak Technologies.
Hmm.
Um,
Do they have a reputation that I would know of? Are they, well,
I
other
mean,
than being a mega corporation?
they 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 have the reputation of being sort of, if all of the mega corporations are these enormous monopolies that sort of have their fingers in a little bit of everything, Silverbreak is the one that is. Think of Silverbreak as like the Amazon of all of these like other corporations.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, Silverbreak has a lot of like probably the most variety in terms of all of the different industries that they have their hands in.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, although they're primarily known for their uh, excuse me, for their cutting edge scientific research um, in a variety of fields, um, primarily genetics, but
Hmm.
uh, uh, honestly, they run the gamut as far as like scientific research and studies go. They essentially they're not at the cutting edge; they are the cutting edge of that. And so the opportunity to participate in one of their studies is actually pretty exciting, and has, unlike some of the other scientific studies that you've participated in for some cash, um, this one actually has the potential of maybe even going further than just this one study. Participation in this actually has, uh, like, to put it bluntly, would look really good on some sort of resume.
Yeah, which I've been slowly building and editing over the last 13 or
I
14 years.
imagine I imagine that Olem's resume is enormous. Like it's one of those ones where he just like sort of put everything on it and it's just huge. One of those that would immediately
Yeah,
go in the do not read pile.
exactly. And he's like probably never actually used it. Like he's I don't know if he's had like big meaningful job interviews.
Yeah. Um
Yep. Cool. Okay.
but
Oh,
as you
I'm
remember
excited
that,
about this.
yeah. Sorry, what'd you say?
I'm just saying I'm excited about this scientific study.
Yeah. Uh and as you are as you're thinking about this, you're just kind of completely distracted, um, considering that and the possibilities. And you arrive, well, to the point where you actually pass by the section that you were making your way towards, and only realize it about 30 seconds later as you sort of look around, realize that you're not in the place you're supposed to be, and turn back.
Oops.
Um, you are just sort of settling down with your terminal in your favorite spot, with your research materials recently grabbed. To the point, most of the time, people here at the university who come to the archives, they need some assistance from one of the archivists, but you've been here long enough that you've pretty much figured out where everything is. Like you don't really need a lot of help.
I decided where everything goes. Yeah.
I don't like for some reason I'm just picturing like in the Name of the Wind where there's like the stacks section where it's just like the it's just obviously technology changes things, but like it's where it's every single person who has come in has had like a different method of like cataloging everything and
Oh
categorization,
yeah. Yep.
and so like there's like all these different like to most people there's a very like it looks like a perfect system of organization, but to you who like spend a lot of time here and do the deep dive, you know it as well if not better than most of the archivists. You can see how different things are categorized in different ways, and you can almost it's almost like fingerprints or like bits of
Hmm.
history in and of itself.
I can
Like
tell how long ago a section was like arranged by
yeah,
how it's arranged.
yeah.
Yeah.
um and sort of as you're but just now you manage to find everything without too much trouble, and you settle yourself in, sort of pull the terminal towards you, take that sort of deep breath that you always do before diving into your studies, and just as you're settling in, you hear your communicator go off.
Hmm. Oh, this is probably just in my pocket or something. I beep, pull it out. Does it have a thing that says who's calling me?
Yeah, it is it says on it call incoming call from Isael.
Okay. Um, I answer it and I say, "Hey, Iz."
Uh you see as her face kind of comes up on the display and she says, "Olem, I actually are you you're not in the middle of anything, are you?"
I just got set up in the library, but what's going on?
Uh I need a little bit of help at the moment. Um I just got back in from my shift, and yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I know that I know it's a day you've been looking forward to. You've got I know it's your sort of free form study day or whatever it was that you were doing, but I could really use your help.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's. I mean, what could you possibly need my help with?
Um, she just sort of like you can see that she like pinches the bridge of her nose between her thumb and forefinger, and
I, I
she just
I'm
says,
saying, like, if it's important, I'll come home. But I mean,
"Yeah,
you know me.
it's." She just says, "Let's just say Vaic had another one of his nights."
Okay, all right,
Yeah, sorry.
that's okay. I'll be there in 45 minutes or so.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Just
no
don't worry,
problem.
I'll make it up to you somehow.
All right.
All right.
See you soon.
The communication cuts out.
Okay. All right. I get up and I put away my stuff and I retrace my steps back to the monorail thing and back to the apartment.
Okay. As you are making your way across campus, um, somewhat settled now that the rush between classes is over, um, it's something that you've never quite gotten used to. Just how suddenly that campus can go from just this bustling hive of activity to just looking like an absolute ghost town.
Hmm.
Um, and it happens in like just a split second. Um, and right now, in the time that it took you to sort of find your stuff, your materials, and settle down, uh, campus looks completely deserted. Like if it wasn't for the fact that you were a regular here on campus, it would look as if no there like the population of the school was nothing at the moment. Aside from the odd individual crossing campus like yourself, um, there's nobody, which is why it's surprising to you when you actually bump into somebody. Um, as you like sort of lost in your own thoughts, sort of trying to think of the like trying to do some of your studying in like mentally as you're crossing campus, you run headlong into a small group of individuals. You sort of startled, you kind of bump back and you see just sort of like three or four uh, people, all of whom appear to be Anzalonian. You take a step back, sort of mumbling your apologies, and they
Sorry.
they're them doing the same thing, and you just hear Olem, and
Hmm?
you kind of look up, and you see your look up into the face of your childhood friend, Kiral Jun.
Kiral.
He says,
Uh,
"Hey, I'm so surprised to bump into you here."
yeah, well, been here a while. What are you doing here?
He says, "Oh, I'm actually here as part of a um, well, my company is donating to the school to the scholarship fund. So I came by to just sort of have a conversation with the administration and yeah, having a meeting just in a few minutes. What about you?
Oh,
What are you doing here?
yeah, I was gonna start studying for some well, one of my professors has got this idea. It's people might call it revisionist history, but there's this idea that the normal channels of settlement and wait, we're talking millennia back, Anzalonian space, stellar exploration settlement. They some of the channels and the movements were actually the opposite. If you go anyway, um,
He says, wait, no, wait. Are you you're still studying here?
oh yeah,
He says, oh, I had no idea. I mean, last time I spoke to you, I know you were still kind of hanging around here and well, you know, but I had no idea you were still here.
yeah. Well, I do research assistance. I'm taking still taking classes. There's more to learn. I think I'm
He
breadth of knowledge.
he
Yeah,
his face kind of cracks into a smile as he says that's he looks at to the people that he's walking with and he says that's what I've always liked about this guy, just an absolute dedication to education and to the world of academia. He shakes his head. um he it's You can kind of feel your anxiety spiking a little bit as it does from time to time, but in this case especially because you recognize that tone in his voice where he's like that thing that he has always done since you were young, where he says something that seems complimentary, but you know that it's not intended to be.
hmm yeah. Well, it's good to see you.
Hey, well, listen, I'm in town for a few days, and I'd love to hear about your research. I mean, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can usually find me in the archives, or well, my call sign is still the same. I say whatever word is the number, the phone number.
Yeah, he says, the more things change, right?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I gotta get to my big meeting, but it's good. It's really good running into you.
Yeah, it's always good. Always good to see you too, Curall.
Great, and he makes his way just without another word, just very perfunctorily walking on, continuing the conversation he was having with the his retinue before you bumped in, as if your conversation had not happened.
Does he work for one of the mega corporations?
Not directly. He works
Okay.
for, although he might as well, because um, he works for a subsidiary of High Prime Terraforming. Um, Not a subsidiary that doesn't deal directly with the terraforming process, but which essentially researches and manufactures new technologies for terraforming, which in
Dang.
Anzalonian culture is sort of the keystone of their economy is terraforming.
Wow. Cool.
So
So he's a relatively big deal.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's not exactly like he's not one of the like executives per se, but he certainly owns an enormous share and like does a fair amount of the. It's one of those situations where he doesn't own it, but he might as well own it for all the things that he does and
Wow.
for all the benefits that he reaps. um,
I stare at his back for a while as we part ways, and then
yeah,
I keep moving towards the towards back home.
yeah. Not once does he look back.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet he's tall and handsome too, huh? Is he?
fairly so, yeah.
I keep
Although in
picturing Anzalonians with like antenna on their head, but I know that that's not the case.
no, Enzalonians tend to they tend to be pretty actually near human in appearance.
Hmm.
The difference is they tend to be on average slightly taller,
Hmm.
with more kind of more. Gosh, I'm trying to think of like the right word. Not like the first word that comes to mind is elongated, but that's not the one that like. They tend to be like slightly um, more. Wow, I'm totally blanking on words. They um they tend to be like not just taller, but also like their proportions are slightly lankier than humans.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool.
and uh, their skin tone ranges in kind of the red spectrum from like a you know deep crimson to like uh, almost almost a sort of a human like almost into like human tones, right? Like to like uh, deep reddish browns or like light pinkish color. Um,
Cool.
they tend to run that whole spectrum. Um, and Kiral in particular is sort of a um, his particular uh, pigmentation is that of more like a sort of russet kind of reddish color. His eyes are a bright orange, um, and as most Anzalonians, the eyes tend to be set a little higher in the head than human
Cool.
proportions. Um,
I also I realize I keep picturing Anzalonians with not having any sclera in their eyes, just having color and pupil. I don't know if this doesn't this doesn't matter at all, but I want you to know that's how I picture them.
all right. Well, no. Generally speaking, they do have like the sclera and that, but yeah.
Damn it. All right. All
Um,
right. Oh,
although
excuse me.
that said, it is a smaller percentage of the eye than of the Anzalonian eye than the human.
Cool.
Um,
All right. We've reached a compromise.
so you board the rail aboard at the station on campus and begin making your way home. And as you do, you arrive at your apartment, making your way into the building, uh, and you reach the door to your aunt's apartment as you kind of knock. Um, you wait a moment, and the door kind of hisses open as she opens it and looking like she does when she gets off shift, tired and
Mm,
ready for sleep. Um, and you see as she opens the door, staying in the door, she says, "Hey, thanks for coming. I'm so sorry." She like looks over her shoulder, and you can see in the background it opens into her living room, uh, and you can see sort of splayed out on one of the couches, the tall and bulky form of Vayek, um, her old her buddy from her old Merc days. Um, as he sort of like is slumped on the couch, sort of sprawled out, and he looks over and he says, "Hey, Olem, it's good to see you."
Hey, hi, Veg. It's good to see you too.
Yeah, and you can tell
And
that
then
he's. Oh, sorry.
it was sorry. No, you go on.
You can tell he's definitely still very drunk.
I say under my breath to my aunt, I say, "Don't they say you're not supposed to take your work home with you?"
She rolls her eyes and she says loudly, kind of over her shoulder, she says, "Well, I keep trying not to, but sometimes work is annoyingly persistent." She kind of shoots a glance over her shoulder, and uh, Vayak, he just sort of like, and he waves from the couch. And she says, "I'm sorry." She says, I wouldn't ask you to help me, but I've had a really long night. The shift was it was rough. And I need to get some food in me and a good day's sleep.
Okay. What do
She
you
says,
want me to do? Just keep an eye on him.
just
Hold the barf bucket.
yeah, keep an eye on him. Try to get him at least a little bit sobered up, and then just kick him out on his ass if you need to.
All right, will do.
She says, "I'll be around. I mean, I just can't be focused on him and also get my stuff done."
Yeah, I I can do a lot of this stuff. I needed some of my research from here, so I'll be fine.
Thank you. Like I said, I'll find some way to make it up to you.
Yeah,
She
that'll be nice.
yeah, she stretches and says, "Okay, I'm gonna go make myself something to eat. Uh, and you can go to hell." And she keep walks past him. He says, yeah. I'm sorry. It just it's just it, and you when you have and you just wanna, you know,
Oh yeah, I know.
you
No,
know, you know,
I
you
identify
know.
with that personally.
Yeah,
No, I'm fine. Like you and me, we're on the same wavelength pretty often. I like move over and like sit on a chair. He's on a couch or something.
yeah. He says,
I go and sit close to him.
yeah. He points at you. He says, "Hey," he says, "I might be drunk,
No, you are.
but I know when you're making fun of me. I still
Oh.
know." He gives you this very like intense glare for a moment, and then he just cracks into a smile again and just leans
Yeah,
back.
I kind of like this guy, I think, but I don't like what I have to do. I mean, I I think that I have enough affection for Vayak that I'm not too mad about this whole situation.
Yeah, yeah.
So I sit, I get him a glass of water or like a big cup of water and say, I demand that you drink this.
Hmm. He takes it. Sniffs it, looks disappointed, and then drinks it anyway.
Good. I refill it and put it next to him again, and then I sit down and start um, accessing what research materials I can remotely from my own like data link thing while glancing up at him periodically.
Yeah. Mostly he's just sort of like mumbling nonsensically to himself, sort of like slipping in and out of coherence. um, as he begins the arduous process of sobering up. And you sort of as you are pulling up your terminal, you actually see that you have a message um, that was sent to you about 5 minutes ago.
What's it say? Who's it from?
Um, as you open it up, it actually appears to be just a packet of information regarding the scientific study that you're going to be participating in. A lot of it looks like some of it looks like forms that you need to finish filling out that are just sort of like a standard thing. Like there's an NDA in there somewhere. There's like
Mm.
a sort of uh there's like a personal history thing that's in there. This sort of standard stuff that they make you fill out for these kinds of things.
Is there any information about what the study is? Or is it kind of vague about what exactly it pertain or it entails?
It's pretty vague. You know, it's related to like research into genetics.
Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't go into more detail than that. And in fact, it even like when you were sort of applying for it, it it did make mention of the fact that it was, you know, proprietary and all that sort of stuff, and that's why they're making you sign NDAs and things like that.
Yeah,
So
pretty standard. I fill out the forms and stuff. I'm not too bothered by signing the NDA.
yeah, as you're doing it, you sort of slowly become aware that Vayek has sort of like leaned in and is kind of looking over your shoulder. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're doing uh that thing with the science, right?"
Yeah, in so many words.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know exactly
yeah.
what it is, but it's it looks it just pays pretty well for this kind of thing. Hey, you should look into it.
He's kind of
Well,
looking at.
actually,
Oh,
well,
go
I
ahead.
mean, not don't yeah, not mine. Don't use your own.
He's like
It's rude to
squinting.
look at people's devices.
He's not paying you any attention, just sort of squinting over your shoulder, looking at. He's like, "Hey, Silver Break, Silver. Hey, that's that's good. That's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, this one pays way more than any of the other like studies like this I've ever seen.
yeah, well, good for you, man.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's about time that one of these big shot outfits recognized you. I mean, you've been putting in the work enough, right?
Yeah, I guess it's just a study. It's not like a job.
No, you're getting paid, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
So that sounds like a job to me.
Well, I mean, can't argue with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
hey, this is. He kind of like taps you on the shoulder with his big hand with like, and he says, "This is the beginning of good things. I can tell you that. I can see it right now."
Oh, I hope you're right, Vayek.
I'm always right. And you just hear, which is
Hmm.
followed up from the kitchen with a bullshit. And he says, "Oh," he says, why is it every time I have something, you know, good and helpful to say, you always just you gotta come in and cut me down like that, huh, Izzy? What's that about?" And she says, "Well, somebody's got to do it." She says, "Your ego would get way too big without it." He says, "Yeah, you're probably right." And he settles himself back into the couch, like leaning back. He says, "Hey, so seen any other races lately?"
I say, Vayek, you know that you're my in for that sort of thing. I don't. I do not normally find myself in the kind of venues that show those unless I'm accompanying you yourself to that sort of thing. So no, I haven't seen any since the last one.
Okay. Well, we gotta go. We gotta go. Conduit racing. You want to pay out? That's where you go.
Oh, I've never been much of a gambler. I don't. eh, I mean, I don't even know much about the sport except for what I've seen a few times. I
Yeah.
wouldn't feel comfortable betting on it.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's not much to it. You pick one you like and you say, "Hey, that one." Izzy just sort of rolls her eyes. She says, as she walks past and just sort of puts a plate of the food that she prepared in front of him, and she says, "That's probably why you're always broke, Vayak." He says, "Oh well, yeah, agree to disagree." She just sort of sits herself down on the other couch, sort of at sort of right angles to the one that he's sitting on, and she says, "You know, he's right though about one thing, not about the conduit racing thing. That's stupid. He's right about the this study that you've got. I mean, that's a big deal."
Yeah, I hadn't really given it much thought except for it'll be a decent payout. Why do you? you think this could lead to more,
Well, I mean,
not
you
just
don't have a company with a big name like that, like Silverbreak, getting people to do a study without any sort of like follow up, and at the least you're getting your name into out there.
that's true. Yeah. Oh, we'll see how it goes. I I don't know what I'd do if they offered me a job or something like that. I want to work for. I'm not ready to work for Silverbrick Technologies. That's not me.
Hey,
But
you know what? There is so much time for you to figure that out.
is that Vaic talking or
No,
Izael?
that's Azale.
Cool. I say, yeah, that's what I've been telling myself for a while now.
I mean, look, when I was your age, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I mean, I went to medical school and then I just she kind of like stops and then gestures to Vaic. She says, "I joined up with these losers." You know?
Yeah, but I mean, finished medical school just because you. That's a lot. Just because you veered off in a different direction to run with some of these goons doesn't mean that you weren't on a solid path with a lot of it behind you already.
No, 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 no. I I didn't know what I was doing. I was a mess. I It's what I keep telling you. I mean, not to like pressure you or anything, but I'm just saying like, you're never going to find out what you want to do if you just if you don't ever branch out, do something other than what you're always doing, you know? I mean, your academic work can only take you so far. You got to go out there and see things, see the galaxy. There's so much of it.
Yeah, I'm. There's a lot of ways to see it from here. There's a lot of codices in that archive.
She
A
just sort
lot
of
of vids, a lot of text. You don't have to go far to learn a whole lot.
she just sort of gives you that look like that she's you know that she knows that you're just sort of at this point trying to dodge out from this conversation, but she's also
Yep.
not going to say anything about it. She just sort of gives you
Yep.
that look like, I know what you're doing, and then she just shakes her head. She says, well, at the very least, this study will maybe it'll lead to something. Who knows?
Who knows?
She leans back, and uh, as she does so, she just reaches out without even looking, just slaps Vaic's hand, which was reaching over towards her plate. She says, "You have a plate in front of you." She says, "Yeah, but I want. Well, yours looks better." She says, "That's because I made it for me." He says, "All right, all right," and he takes it and just starts eating, and leans back, just once again in the couch, just sort of eating thoughtfully, just sort of clearly making some progress towards sobriety at this point. Um, the two of them sort of banter back and forth now, with you no longer in the focus of their conversation. Uh, as you sort of finish up filling out the forms and set to some of your studies, um, eventually, over the course of all of this, your aunt decides to. She stands up, she cleans up, and she goes to bed. um, and Vaic eventually just sort of passes out on the couch, just sort of softly snoring. Um,
I tiptoe over and listen to his breath a little bit and like smell it, but not like a scientific waft, not a gross like nose full of his mouth air, but just like to see, just like gauging how fucked up he is at this point,
yeah,
and trying to figure out how long I'll have to sit and watch him before I can wake him up and kick him out.
yeah. I mean, it seems like he's mostly uh, he's mostly sobered up for the like as much as he's going to without sleeping it off, basically.
Yeah, okay.
But certainly the food helped.
Yeah.
Um,
I get some food too and eat some more food.
okay, sounds good.
And just yeah, sit there in the like common area, whatever, at the chair, doing the same thing, just doing research and bumming around on my smartphone, basically, waiting for him to maybe wake up by himself or getting planning on waking him up to get him out in like a couple hours time.
Okay, yeah. Eventually, he does wake up and on his own, and just sort of with sort of a brief like, ah, shit, and kind of holding his head, said, ah, oh, it's a bad one. Oh, it's a bad one. He like looks at you. He says, "Learn from my mistakes. Learn from my mistakes." Some,
Oh, I have been.
yeah, good. Somebody's got to. Sure as hell ain't me. And he stands up slowly.
I I give him another big glass of water.
Yeah, and he takes it and just sort of drinks about half of it and sets it down. He says, ah, um, I'm gonna go home. Yeah, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home.
I I say I hand him like a little bit of like packaged food for the road. And I'm like, hey, watch your step and let me know next time you're going one of those conduit race viewing parties down in the Purple District.
He nods. He says, "Don't call it a viewing party. Fastest way anyone is going to know that you do not belong there."
What do you call it then? You call it a gathering of aficionados of an advanced sport?
He just sort of stares at you for a moment. He says, "I'm too hungover to deal with this right now. We'll we'll deal with this another time. I'm going home.
Uh,
You do whatever it is, your science and shit." And he just like leaves.
All right, see you, Vayek.
You just kind of get a grunt in response as the door closes behind him.
Oh, I sigh after he leaves. Is it too late for me to go back to the archives and get some work done today? Do I reckon?
Um, Probably not. You definitely won't get as much done as you were planning on, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably not too late.
I want to make that trip again, I think.
Okay. Um, so we'll just sort of speed things along and sort of cut to the uh, the end of the week. Um, as you are uh, getting ready to for the next day to participating in the scientific study. Um, you are in your apartment, just sort of going over the directions to the location, going over the like instructions as to how to get there, how to get to the correct office, and all of the um, like preparation info, like bring such and such a thing. You're going to be staying in a hotel, put up with by Silverback Technologies, et cetera, like that kind of orientation sort of stuff for the
Cool.
activity.
So I'm packing a little bag and stuff too, probably.
Yeah. Um, and as you're doing so, you hear a knock at your door.
I open it.
Um, and you see your aunt Isael standing there. She says she doesn't wait for an invitation. She just walks in. She says, "So you getting almost ready to almost packed?
Yeah, I think so.
Great." And she steps inside. Probably the first time that the two of you have had like a more or less synchronized schedule for probably the better part of a month. Um,
Oh,
as she steps inside, and for you, it's getting getting close to time to sleep, but for her, she's like wide awake, and you can tell as when she's uh, sometimes she gets in a way that most of the time she is a she's every bit the EMT, like the day job having sort of, uh, regular person, and it's hard to see her as ever having been part of a kind of like a mercenary crew as their sawbones. But
Yeah,
every once in a while she gets like the way she is right now, where she is like a caged animal in these apartments, where there's just this energy about her, like she's just like charged up, and you can absolutely see that that wild young woman who just went wandering the galaxy and joined up with a mercenary crew and did all kinds of just bizarre stuff. Only about probably about a third of which you actually fully believe. Um, and so right now she's just kind of got that energy about her as she sort of looks over the stuff that you've got in your bag, and she says, "Oh no, no, you pack like your mom." She says, "This is way too much. You're only gonna be gone for what, a week?"
yeah. Well, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? I guess I sound like my mom too. Damn it.
She just sort of smirks at you, and she says, "Look," as she starts kind of like pulling an extra cardigan out of the suitcase and setting it aside. She says, "Are you nervous about this? I mean, I know I've been excited for you about this and been talking about it a lot, but like, I mean, you know that I don't. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, obviously, I care about whether you succeed or do the things that you want to be doing, but as long as it takes, right? I don't. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
just. I've just been excited for you. That's all. I'm not trying to push you.
yeah, no, no, I get it. I mean, it's, I'm excited for this, and I am nervous about it because it's like they're like, don't let us know anything, you know. Um,
Well, that's in my
but
experience. That's how you know it's
it's
important.
I guess if it wasn't something as legit as Silver Break, I'd be kind of freaked out about how hush hush it is. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's has to be legit. It's a mega corporation here. So yeah, it's not even that big a deal, is it? Right, just a week, but um yeah, I'm nervous, and I know that I know you'll give me whatever time I need, and I know that you're rooting for me. So thank you, thanks for that.
Yeah, and it's. I'm not going anywhere. My days of wandering the galaxy are well behind me, and so you know I'm always gonna be here. And so whenever you need a place to look, all I'm saying is that as long as you need it, you can always find a place to just sort of crash. You know, even if you ever reach out and try something, it doesn't go well, you've always got a place to come back to.
Thanks. As long as you don't end up subletting my half to Vayak while I'm gone.
That will never happen.
That will never happen. I know. Oh man.
She
What is,
oh, sorry, what were you saying?
you look like something's bothering you.
Just
I know you
oh,
didn't come in here just to criticize my packing job.
well, it is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
She
You've
she
made that clear.
she smiles. Just no, I wouldn't say bothering me exactly. Just no, just one of my coworkers missed a shift yesterday, and he's usually one of the ones who's always on time. Mister Berate everybody for putting a single toe out of line, kind of thing. I swear, sometimes he acts like he's the supervisor. And anyway, but he didn't show up yesterday, and it really messed everything up. Setting schedules back, everybody had to run around to try to cover for him, and it was a mess. It's why I'm on
Hmm.
this. It's why I'm on this shift now. But
Have you heard from him since? Has anybody?
mm, I haven't really asked honestly, but eh, he'll turn up. He uh, he was making some noise about going on vacation, core word, but you know,
Doesn't sound like the kind of guy that would leave without letting anybody know, without getting it all his ducks in a row before he leaves.
she kind of frowns and sort of starts. She has this. Uh, whenever she gets like this, whenever she gets really like agitated about something, she she starts cleaning, which is something that you know that she has to be pretty agitated to start doing, because generally speaking, she's not the most like she's not like a slob by any means. She's just not somebody
Mhm.
who she's not a compulsively neat person. Um,
Nor am I.
yeah. Um, th- she just sort of starts like arranging stuff around the room. She says, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he doesn't. He doesn't really. He's not really that kind of person. I don't know. It's just it's weird because when I last saw him, he said, "See you tomorrow," and then that was. I mean, I haven't seen him since then, so it's not like he. I don't know. It's not like he was planning on skipping or taking days off. I don't.
Well, if you're so worried about it, can you uh, call your supervisor or something? Ask if they've heard from him. Call him directly.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
the.
I,
I mean, even check the records of other. Oh, I don't know, hospitals, jails. Did he go on a bender? Or he and Vayak on a bender together? I don't know.
no,
You don't. It's not like you to just worry about something. Do something about it if it's bothering you.
I did. I mean, I talked to my shift supervisor and he said that they were looking into it,
Hmm.
but she just sort of looks up at you and just sort of like taps the side of her nose. She says, you working in the border worlds, especially doing mercenary work, you learn to sniff out when things are wrong, when something just smells wrong.
It's you and all the mercs, all the ex mercs are always talking about that, being able to be able to sense stuff, smell it, sniff it out, sense that something's wrong. I've never really felt that.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
you've never exactly been on the wrong end of a racted blaster, have you?
No, not exactly.
Yeah, well, that'll do it. Granted, I've met some of the academics in that uh, in that spider's nest that you call a university, and let me tell you, some of them I'd take the ractids over them.
Huh.
She
Yeah.
just shakes her head. She says, "That's beside the point. It just that sense never goes away. It's an instinct. You keep it. Gets duller sometimes, but it never goes away, and I just can't shake the feeling. You know."
Well, it is. I don't know what to tell you. Just
Yeah.
try to get some sleep. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll have answers as soon as they're available to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry about this. And it's um you're probably right. It was probably straight laced as he is. He probably cracked under the pressure and went on a bender and got arrested. So
Yeah. I mean, why not?
anyway, when you wake up tomorrow, come by for breakfast. I'll have it ready for you before you set out.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get used to it, but
No, no, I absolutely will not.
uh,
Thank you.
she smiles and sort of pushes some of her like long, curly, dark hair out of her face and says, "Okay, I'm going to sleep. Well, I'm gonna try to sleep. This whole
Good.
sudden shift of schedule is. You sleep for the both of us, because I guarantee you, whenever I have to do this 180 on shifts,
I
it's
can't
impossible.
imagine. It's
Yeah.
gotta suck. I'll do my best. I don't know if the nerves will let me get the sleep I need either, but either way, I'll see you in the morning.
Okay. See you in the morning.
Good
Um,
night.
is there anything that that Olem does before going to bed?
um, uh, no, I don't think so. He cleans his glasses. He's got glasses. He cleans them very carefully.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. You kind of clean your glasses. You set them on the bedside table and uh, roll yourself into bed. Take a moment to just sort of thinking before you turn the lights out and sleep. Um, we're gonna go ahead and cut to later the next day as you are arriving at the Silver Break office. Um, it's sort of one of their satellite offices that they have on attached to the university. Um, it's little more than a um, basically just sort of an abandoned office suite that has that they sort of came in and leased recently, and they sort of have it set up with a bunch of different. They've basically like gutted the interior of it and turned it into sort of an open plan kind of place. Um, and as you enter, there is a an individual dressed in an official Silverbreak uh, Silverbreak Technologies uniform. Um, she's Anzalonian as she sort of steps over and she says, "Welcome to Silverbreak Technologies. I assume you are part of the study."
Hello. Yes, my name is Olem Ferber. I've filled out the forms, and I'm here for the study.
Great, I'll take those, and you can just walk right through there. And she kind of points to where you can see sort of in one corner of this sort of open office suite. There's a section of it that is just lounge furniture, basically, where you can see a number of other individuals who are seated there. And she says, "And we'll have the transport ready to go to the hotel where the study will be taking place in about." She kind of glances at her wrist terminal, and she says, "It shouldn't be more than about 10 minutes or so."
Oh, okay. Thank you.
She nods and moves off. As you sort of settle yourself in, um, kind of looking around,
Yeah. Who do I see? Who else is here?
you see mostly a bunch of Anzalonians, but you also see a member of the avian species, the Sokoru, um,
Mm.
somewhat one of the sort of smaller variety of their species, um, sort of seated off by themselves, um, currently engrossed in what appears to be uh, their own terminal as they're looking through. Um, just basically, it looks like from what you can see at this angle, like they're looking through some like God, what is the term for that I'm thinking of? Like the like r- published research journals, essentially. It looks like probably on genetics.
Hmm.
Um, which is not all that surprising considering that Sokoru are actually they're quite often most known for their penchant for scientific endeavors.
Oh, cool. Is he wearing a uniform or anything, or they look like
Nope,
eh,
doesn't appear to be.
just another participant in the study or
Yeah,
something?
seems like it.
Okay. I eat. open some kind of weird package of junk food and nervously eat.
Mm-hmm.
I think
There's
that they're like Smarties. They're like one of the versions of some kind of candy.
Yeah, sounds good. You sort of like glance around. It's like a few of the participants in the study are actively engaged in conversation, and sort of you can hear sort of a chorus of laughter breaks out as one of them tells a joke, and they're all uh, kind of laughing and carrying on. Most of the participants are sort of engaged in conversations, either in sort of like a group or just sort of uh, in pairs, um, and you sort of find yourself just sort of seated here, looking around at them, mostly ignored. But before long, the transport arrives, and you're sort of all kind of ushered towards it. Um, and you eventually arrive at the hotel. It's in a neighboring city, probably. Uh, it's probably about 100 miles or so from the capital. Um, and as you arrive at the hotel, sort of stepping off the shuttle platform, um, you're greeted by an official, um, a human actually, a man who sort of steps forward. He's wearing the Silver Break Technologies uniform, but a much more uh, official version of it, much more important looking individual. As he steps forward, he's got a tablet in his hand as he's kind of looking through it, and he looks up with just sort of a big grin, probably in his early in his early 40s. Sort of the smile lines apparent, a uh, chiseled jawline, and like kind of uh, white hair gone prematurely white as he gives a big beaming smile at all of you. He says, "Hello there. Welcome to this this genetic study by Silverbreak Technologies. I, first of all, just want to take this moment to thank you all for your participation in the study. We're all doing important work here at Silverbreak Technologies in the genetics division, and we're happy to have this opportunity to have you participate in the study and perhaps help us make a big difference, make some breakthroughs in the field of genetics research. Um, my name is Aaron, um, and I will be something of the like the director of the study. If you have any questions at any time, any concerns, feel free to direct them to me. Um, and you can feel hear uh, yours and others' personal terminals start chirping as you receive contact information. And he says, "Right now, I've just sent you all my personal line. If you need anything, feel free to use it to contact me, and either I will see to it myself, or I will make sure to direct you to uh, the appropriate source. So, if you'll walk with me, we'll begin."
Hmm.
All right.
I walk with him.
So the group kind of heads on, following him as he sort of uh, leads you in. He's basically for a while sort of giving you the general uh, tour and layout of the hotel, but not like a tour of the hotel itself, but more like um, a tour of the study itself. And as you're doing so, you're starting to realize that this study, whatever it is, it looks like they have. At first, you were thinking that you were just sort of being put up in a hotel, and the study was going to take place here or in a nearby laboratory. But as you're going through, you're starting to realize that the reality is much closer to. Well, it seems like the reality of the situation is that Silverbrick Technologies has seems to have booked the entirety of the hotel. You don't see
Wow.
anybody other than hotel staff and Silver Break officials. And as you're walking through, he's sort of directing you, saying, "And over here, you'll see this is where we'll be doing the where we'll be running trials. We'll be um, conducting in some of our more survey based testing here." And he just sort of goes on sort of as you pass various rooms, giving you the basic breakdown of the study. Towards the end, he says, "Well, are there any questions before I show you to your housing arrangements?" And one person sort of raises a hand, the Skoru, and says, "Excuse me, sir, but uh, when exactly will we know the exact nature of the study?" And he says, "I'm glad you asked. Thank you. I right now I'm just sort of giving you the basic orientation, and I'll give you an opportunity to put your things down and get settled. After which we will have the more detailed orientation, where we will go into the specifics of the study. Um, do be aware that prior to orientation, we have made certain divisions and selections within the study for various aspects of participation. So don't be alarmed or concerned if prior to the main orientation, one of our officials contacts you and about joining a special focus group. There's nothing to be alarmed about. You haven't failed any kind of screening, and he says, sort of like making it a joke, and a few people chuckle. He says, "It's just part of our process here. There are several different aspects of the study, and some of you are more suited towards certain parts of it than others." And
Hmm.
there's a few sort of nods and murmurs as says, "So, any other questions?" Great. Well, then we will. I'll show you to where you will be rooming, um, and then the afternoon is yours until orientation. Um, he leads you to some of the lifts in the hotel, and basically takes you up to the 20th floor of the hotel, and says, takes you down to like one block of rooms. He says, "All right, from here on this way, this is the block of rooms that you will have during this study. Your specific room assignment should be in your information packets that you received a few nights ago. Um, Again, as I said, any other questions, you know how to contact me." Uh,
I kind of smile and nod.
the group sort of breaks up and starts uh, moving about into their respective rooms. We'll go ahead and cut to um, a little later after you've gotten settled in your room. Um,
Is it a fancy hotel?
it is very much so.
Yeah.
Um, you've participated in these studies before in many capacities. Some of them are local studies that you just sort of come in for an afternoon. Some of them are ongoing. A few of them, like this one, take place elsewhere where you are kind of get put up in a hotel and like. But usually, you're given rooms in a hotel that were booked for the study. You've never seen an entire hotel booked for the purposes of a research study before.
Hmm.
Um, and
And it's only, are there as many participants as hotel rooms, or is it the
no,
whole
no.
hotel's booked, but only a few of the rooms are in use?
It seems like that you saw probably about 40% participants
Yeah.
in total. Um, it's it seems like there's a good chance, given how many people you saw, um, that a lot of the rooms in the hotel were booked for Silver Break personnel.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Um, which is in itself unusual because usually these kinds of studies are conducted with like just a small team. Um, this looks like it's a lot of people, like a big deal, which is sort of causing that slight anxiety spike a little bit because you're starting to think that maybe whole study was a even bigger deal than you thought it was originally.
Huh.
Um, and just as you're starting to feel that, you actually hear a the door chime.
Uh, mm, I get up and open well, is there like a little port to look through or something, like a camera to see who's outside the door?
Yeah, there would be. There's sort of like a panel next to the door where there's like a screen. And as you're looking, it is an individual that you haven't seen before who is wearing the Silver Break uniform.
Okay, I open the door. And,
Yeah, door opens and you see in front of you the same uniformed individual um, as she smiles and says, uh, she looks down at the pad that she has in front of her and she says, Olem Ferber?
yeah, that's me.
All right. Uh, you have been selected for one of the advanced groups. We're going to get started. Your group is set to get started now, prior to orientation.
Oh, okay. Mm, should I go with you now?
Yeah, please.
Should I bring anything or just
No need. It's just sort of a brief introduction.
okay? All right.
Great.
I pocket my key fob for the room or whatever, and then leave and follow her.
Okay. Um, you you follow her to a room that was probably some sort of conference room here at the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
which has sort of been rearranged and set up. There's a bunch of different wall terminals um, that have been set up, and you see about five or six other individuals, one or two that you recognize from being from when you were just sort of waiting for transportation, um, and several individuals, official Silver Break personnel who are moving about the room. It seems to be that there's one per terminal, sorry, one per participant, who most of whom are sort of already sitting at a terminal. Um, the individual who greeted you first, Aaron, is also in the room, and sort of talking to another person in the Silver Break uniform. He kind of glances over, looks around the room, sees you, gives a quick, uh, wide smile, and then goes back to his conversation. Um, the person who leads you into the room, she gestures you towards one of the free terminals. She says, "If you wouldn't mind having a seat, the initial assessment will begin."
Okay.
Um, you settle in and you see nothing on the screen except for the Silver Break logo, um, and you settle in and kind of take in your surroundings, looking around, and see that several of the other participants are doing the same thing. One of them, you recognize, the Skoru who you saw, uh, notices you and gives a quick inclination of his head, um, seemingly recognizing you as well.
I smile at him and do like a hi, like I say hi under my
Yeah,
breath.
and he smiles and says, "Hello." Um, as, as you sort of sit there for a moment, seemingly kind of waiting, eventually he says, "Have excuse me, have you been told anything about this particular branch of the testing?"
No, no, nothing yet. They just came and got me at my room.
Hmm. Uh, th-
I
they did
I
the
don't
same
know.
with me.
I like touch the screen a couple times to see if there's like
Yeah, nothing happens. Um, he says, uh, "I'm Jik.
my name's Olem. Olem Ferber. Nice to meet you.
It's good to meet you as well." He sort of like there's this sort of awkward moment that just sort of hangs as neither of you really know what to say beyond that. And he sort of glances over and says, I hope that the assessment begins soon. I would like to get underway.
Yeah, I don't like all this suspense, like, if I'm being honest.
Yes, it makes it makes me uncomfortable. I, uh, as a scientist, prefer answers, concrete answers.
Yeah, I like answers too. I don't know. Are all the Silver Break personnel people are still in here
Yeah,
in
most of
this
them
room?
look like they are preparing for whatever is coming. You can see several of them who are like currently typing onto their own tablets, just sort of um, typing through, and every once in a while engaging with one of the participants, but mostly just sort of working on something. Eventually, after oh sorry, what were you gonna say?
Uh, uh, so they're just like quote unquote shuffling papers. They don't have any like specialized equipment. They're just like looking at their terminals and stuff.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Um, After a few minutes, Aaron, the supervisor, sort of looks around and says, "All right, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. Just had to iron out a few details. Right now, all of our personnel are calibrating the initial assessment for this branch of the testing. Once that is done, you'll receive the uh, the uh, breakdown of what we're going to be doing in this particular leg of the study. And after that, we'll make our way to orientation with everyone else, and we'll kind of basically, he kind of smiles. He says, give you the a full in-depth repeat of everything that was in the original packet that you got sent. And there's sort of like some nervous chuckling around the room. He says, all right, so he looks around and says, are we ready? Great, okay. In a few moments, you'll see the initial assessment will come up on the screen, and you'll be free to begin. All you have to do is just follow the instructions on the screen and continue on until it tells you to stop. All right, you may begin. And at that moment, you can see that the screen sort of flashes the Silver Break logo disappearing, um, and the first question that comes up is it's at first you're not really sure what you're looking at, as it seems far too it's you're sort of looking for additional meaning in it, because essentially the first question that pops up on the display is uh gosh, it's like those those captchas that are like, you know, identify every image with a bicycle or something like that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
It's like one of those.
those make me nervous in real life. It's not always so easy.
Yeah, well, it's essentially that. It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like
Okay.
it's a grid of images, and it just asks you to identify and like select each one that contains a starship. Um, as you're sort of like going through, like,
Hmm.
is this a trick question? And you're sort of just selecting them. Um, the weird thing is that all of the images that pop up are, I mean, they're hard to sort of fathom in a lot of cases. Like, there are the ones that are like they clearly have starships, but there are some that just show abstract pieces of technology that are entirely unclear what they are, one way or the other. Um, and you sort of start clicking through, and then you get to the next section, which is a very similar thing, but it's asking you to identify something else. And each layer of the assessment uh, adds a new layer of specificity to the image selection, which just kind of keeps growing to the point where it gets very abstract at certain points, where like it's one of those weird things where it's like it's so specific that like you start having to really like think hard about which image actually contains a starship. in the to the level of difficulty, like which image contains a starship that was built at this, in this time, like it's this weird, like series of very specific questions, and at the end of it, you do the last one, and the screen flashes assessment complete, and then it goes back to the Silver Break logo. Um, you kind of look around the room, sort of watching as you watch them finish up their assessments. Um, you make eye contact with Jik, who just sort of shrugs and smiles, and uh, as it's all finishing up, um, Aaron eventually says, "All right, so it looks like that's the last one of you done. So, uh, how'd that go, everyone? Everyone feeling all right?" There's just sort of some nodding.
I just kind of murmur. Yeah.
He says, "All right, well, I want to give you an overview, but I'd really like a change of scenery before we do that. So why don't you all come with me, and we'll make our way to the next conference room over where there's refreshments set up, brain food." Um, all the participants get up and follow. Um, all of the research attendants stay in the room, examining the seemingly examining the results of the assessment. Um,
I as we go over, I want to ask. I go to Jik and I say, "Hey, if you don't mind my asking, was your assessment just like a like find the starship image series type thing?"
he kind of cocks his head at you. He says, It was strange and unexpected."
Yeah, they're not paying us this much to help with machine learning or something. I don't know. It's weird.
I suspect that it is some kind of psychological component to research analysis, to genetic research, uh, which would be fascinating. Doing research and participating in a study that bridges the gap between those two fields. It's it's exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess it is. I guess I won't really understand it till it's all done.
Um, you by this point you are making your way into the new area. Stepping through the door as Aaron sort of gestures everybody inside. You're stepping into a, as you said, a conference room. This one is just sort of set up as a conference room, the table and everything, but the table is sort of uh, laid out with snacks and refreshments and all that. And he says, he gestures, he says, um, "Go ahead and dig in. I'm sure it's been a long day for all of you. You've been traveling for most of it. Um, I'll go ahead and get the presentation ready as you do that. Um, you all kind of take your seats around the conference table, and conversation ensues amongst the participants. After a moment, um, you start to notice, as you're sort of like eating, kind of not really like looking in particular at anybody or around the room, that um, the lighting in the room has shifted a little bit. As you kind of like glance up at it, um, you notice that part of that seems to be that there is, where like most of the lighting in the room was natural lighting that was coming in through a window. Um, and as you're looking now, you kind of glance over to the window and you see that there's a large transport that has sort of moved up in front of the window that seems to have blocked a lot of the light. Um,
Is it hovering in place or did it land in the way?
yeah, it seems to be hovering in place next to the window, which is
Hmm.
kind of strange. It's just sort of there. Nobody else seems to be noticing it. Um, you kind of turn to sort of see if anybody else is seeing this, and as you do, you actually it's weird, but as you're seeing everybody else, they all look like you didn't notice when the conversation stopped. Um, but now that you're looking, you're realizing that they're all sort of in varying states of what looks like it kind of reminds you of when Vaic has had a little bit too much and he starts to sort of fade a bit. Um, yeah, you kind of glance over at Jik, who's already like head down on the table.
Whoa. I immediately like put down whatever I was eating and like look at it.
Yeah, um, it it looks fine, but then you look again and you can sort of see as it looks like it's out of focus.
Oh shit. I is the transport still outside the window?
It is. And as you're looking at it, you can actually see as it's slowly drifting closer to the window. You glance over and you see because you see movement in the room, and you see Aaron who's walking over towards one of the windows. And as you see that he's reaching out for a panel on the wall, um, and one of the panels of the window actually slides upwards, opening to
So
the outside.
oh so it's just oh wow. I look up at do I feel does my brain feel like I'm in an altered state right now?
Not not really. Um, you what you're noticing now as you're starting to realize that things are weird and your vision is kind of strange, you're noticing that your limbs just feel extremely heavy.
Hmm.
Um, and as you're kind of noticing this, Aaron turns, sees that you're one of the last people still more or less upright. He says he like puts his hands on the table and leans across and looks very intently at you before he kind of flashes that wide smile at you again. He says, "Huh."
What'd you put in this food?
He
Ask if my mouth will speak.
Yeah, it comes out a little bit more like, "Where's it put this food?" As your mouth suddenly like it just feels just exhausted and fatigued, and you can't quite get your mouth around the words. He just sort of leans in and he just shakes his head, still smiling. Says, "Of all the participants, I did not expect that you would be the most resistant. Well done, Mr. Ferber. Well done." And he kind of leans back, and the last thing that you see before completely blacking out is you see his pale blue eyes and that wide smile just watching you. And you can vaguely hear just fading into the distance. It's like, "That's right, Mr. Ferber. Yeah, just let it take you. Just sleep." And I think that's where we'll
Wow.
stop.
Oh my gosh. Cool.
All right. Well, I'm really looking forward to the start of this actual campaign.
Me too. This was great. I think this is a great idea to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Yours
Yeah.
is the first one that actually there hasn't been any rolling of any kind in.
I know. I was thinking about that. I even got my special little cipher dice out,
Yeah,
but we'll get a chance for that soon.
yeah.
That was fun.
All right. Well, thanks, Henry. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the recording.